Greg, Scott, good morning. Nice
Good morning.
On a sunny Wednesday here in on Vancouver Island. I know, Greg, I think I'll turn it right over to you so we can get started. I know you're going to do an introduction to the team, introduction to Scott, and then we'll jump into the deck. So I'll just turn it right over to you and we can get rolling.
That's great. Appreciate everybody joining us today. My name is Greg Johnson. I'm CEO and Executive Chairman of Metallic Minerals. Joined today by the new President of Metallic Minerals, Scott Petzel. Scott and I go a long way back. We started out working together back in the 90s when we were both with Placer Dome, which was one of Canada's largest precious metal producing companies prior to being acquired by Barrick. Then Scott was part of the core team at Nova Gold as we took Nova Gold in the last metal price cycle from a micro cap exploration development stage company through to, today it's a multi-billion-dollar market cap with the focus on the Donlin asset. So Scott and I go a long ways back. We are building an exceptional team, and now with two separate advanced stage projects, it really makes sense for Scott to step up into that role as president. And then we're going to be building the teams at both Keno and La Plata as we take these two assets forward, similar, we hope, to the days at Nova Gold, where we had both Donlin and Galore that we were advancing in parallel. So I think with that introduction, Scott, why don't we go ahead and share the screen, and we'll go through a couple of the background slides and then right into the La Plata presentation.
You see that?
Yeah, looking good. So the focus of today's webinar, we will give a kind of a high level update on all of the company's projects, but the focus today is on our announcement yesterday on the inaugural 43101 resource at the La Plata project. And we're really quite excited about how rapidly we've been able to advance this project from late 2019 acquisition to first 43101 resource, and really getting our arms around the information on the project and its potential. And I think we've got some insight to share today on that. So let's go ahead and move to the next slide, please. So we will be making forward-looking statements, and investors are advised to take a look at our risks section of our quarterly reports to really go through those elements in detail. Metallic Minerals is part of the Metallic group of companies. We put this group together in 2016 at really the low of the bear market for resources and metals. Three companies. Metallic Mineral is the silver, gold, and copper focused member of the company of the group. Group 10 Metals is our battery and platinum group element focused member of the group. And Granite Creek is our copper gold focused and newest member. We've applied a common strategy and approach to business across all three, bringing a team together with a varied background, but many of us have worked for the majors. We understand really what the big companies are looking for, and we're trying to apply a similar approach to what was so successful at Nova Gold in terms of acquiring assets of true scale that we can advance through the engineering resource expansion and engineering stages to de-risk those. And using the example here, for those who are less familiar with Nova Gold, we effectively acquired three key assets that met our criteria of kind of world-class potential. Scale measured in kilometers, they make grade, pick them up at the bottom of the metal price cycle. So in the case of Donlin, that was the bottom in the gold price. We more than tripled the resource, quadrupled the resource over several years, and then advanced that through engineering. Today, that's a $3 billion market cap in Nova Gold, joint ventured with Barrick. The Galore asset, which has great similarities with the Plata geologically, we acquired at the bottom of the metal price cycle in 2003, last cycle, and purchased that from Rio Tinto. Again, massive expansion during the resource drilling phase, and then grew that and advanced it through the engineering stages. So that today that's 50-50 owned by Newmont and Teck, and about $1 billion purchase price on that asset. The third asset to come into the portfolio was the Alluvial Portfolio. Scott spent a lot of time at both Galore and Ambler, so a lot of the work here that we're going to be applying on both Keno and La Plata stems from that deep experience on those projects. But again, really the key here, recognizing the opportunity, grabbing that resource, being able to take it through what can often be explosive growth phase as you're drilling and growing a resource, and then eventually de-risking that through the pre-engineering stages to really drive value. So if we look at the 4 assets that sit in the metallic group today, starting in 2016 at Keno Hill, this was really the genesis of the group. We recognized the opportunity to pick up a district scale land position in one of the highest grade producing silver camps in the world. We see the potential here for a world-class silver district with both high grade that Keno's been known for historically, as well as potential that we're starting to delineate for bulk tonnage. And we see this as a district that has potential to be a 1 billion+ ounce district, and analog would be the Coeur d'Alene district. In 2017, we applied a similar approach at Stillwater. There's a 1 mine company next door that was subsequently acquired by Sibanye-Stillwater. We recognized the potential for bulk tonnage flat reef style mineralization in the lower Stillwater district, made that acquisition in 2017, and have delivered the first resource on that here just in the last 6 months with Group 10 Metals. At Granite Creek Copper, in 2018, we recognized the potential district in the central Yukon, the Minto high-grade copper gold district. We picked up the southern part of the district, an area that hadn't been explored for more than 50 years. And we've now consolidated that district, recently expanded the resource by more than 40%, and are advancing that project to the PEA stage with a PEA update expected soon. And then lastly, in 2019, the opportunity at La Plata. When we first looked at this opportunity, which was originally discovered in the 1950s by the exploration arm of Rio Tinto, Kennecott, this asset had work in the 50s, 60s, and 70s that really had seen no modern exploration. And so the opportunity to take on an asset like this that has very similar geologic characteristics to Galore Creek, where Scott and I have a lot of expertise, this was really an exciting opportunity for us. And with yesterday's announcement that we've taken this to the resource stage, we're really at that real area where you can create massive value as you define a resource and then begin to grow it, particularly in these porphyry systems, which have the potential to become, as we know, globally, some of the biggest producers of copper and associated precious metals. So we're pretty excited about what we've put together in the group, and specifically in metallic minerals. 3 key assets that we've got in the portfolio. The flagship has been Keno Silver, and we're still very excited as we move that in parallel now with La Plata. La Plata, the more recent acquisition, but being able to leverage the historic work on that to bring that to a modern resource. So we really have 2 flagship assets that we're going to be advancing. And then we'll talk a little bit at the end, if there's time, about the work on the Klondike Alluvial Portfolio. But this is an opportunity for us to fast track to production and cash flow. And we've got some significant developments that are unfolding there. So I think there's a few key elements just to kind of touch on before we dive into La Plata in detail. We've put these assets together at the bottom of the market price cycle. This is a team that has a track record of recognizing value, of acquiring assets that have potential to become world-class in scale. We're credited with the discovery and advancement of 3 major deposits in North America that really all have characteristics that are relevant to our projects today. And noteworthy, this is a team that understands ESG. We've been recognized for the way we work with communities and really applying best practices in that field. So I think we bring together the key elements of a successful resource company. We're looking to apply what was so successful with NovaGold and our experience with the majors, And we're really quite excited about what's unfolding here in the company today. So with that, Scott, I'll go ahead and hand it over to you to run through the La Plata slides.
Thanks, Greg. And I want to reiterate that we are really excited here to bring this inaugural resource to metallic minerals and to the La Plata project. Before we talk specifics of the numbers and the detail on the resource, we want to provide you with a little bit of context on the project itself. It is located in Southwest Colorado, and the map you see here is outlining the Colorado Mineral Belt, which is really a prodigious belt of historic mineral production, including 50 million ounces of gold, 500 million ounces of silver, and 1.5 billion pounds of molybdenum. It's a district that is really defined by these regional continental scale structures of gravity and magnetic anomalies that is generated from work that was done by the USGS here in recent years. So we see these big anomalies. We see the location of La Plata within the Colorado Mineral Belt in Southwest Colorado. And we can also look at some of the deposits in the Colorado Mineral Belt that have had some of this large-scale production that include both Freeport Climax's mine and Freeport Henderson mine, as well as Newmont's Cripple Creek Gold Mine, which is a 30 million ounce producer in the belt. Some of the high-grade gold and silver production as well, from Telluride, Creed, Leadville, and Central City. So there is a broad bit of mineralization from the district and the belt that supports the work that we're doing in the La Plata district and underpins our work as we move forward on the project. So a little bit of the history of the La Plata district. There is a long history of mining in the range, starting with the discovery of silver by the Spanish explorers in the 1700s. By the late 1800s through the 1940s, there was high-grade gold and silver production from over 90 different prospects and mines in the district. The focus of the district changed in the 50s and the 70s when the major companies came in, Rio Tinto and Freeport-McMoRan, when they began to explore the Allard porphyry system in the center of the district. It's a bulk tonnage, disseminated stockwork, porphyry, copper, silver, gold system. In the 20 years that they were very active in the district, they drilled about more than 50 holes and 15,000 meters of drilling, and did so with a very fractured land package at that time that didn't allow them to really grow their efforts beyond their own land packages. But so essentially the district has sat fallow for about 50 years. We picked it up in 1999, sorry, 2019, not 1999, I wish, but 2019. And we very quickly have been able to move to the resource stage on the project with confirmatory work, including drilling, geophysics, geochemistry, mapping and sampling across the district and also in the Allard resource area. So the map that's shown here is a map of the district that shows in the yellow crosshatches the 90 different gold and silver prospects that were historically mined for gold and silver, and then the location of our Allard resource area. And looking at the district as a whole, you could define it as a precious metals and a critical minerals district. We use the term electric metals now. It's a fairly new term, but I think it is appropriate. Gold, silver, and copper, which are abundant in the district, are nature's best conductors and are required for the electrification of our modern society. It's also noted that critical minerals are recognized in the district. They're also important for the green energy revolution. In our confirmatory work last year, we resampled some historic drilling and recognized an interval or a couple of intervals of platinum and palladium occurrence in the Copper Hill area nearby the Allard resource. Tellurium was also a common byproduct of historic gold and silver. And these three elements, platinum, palladium, tellurium, are on the US Geological Survey's critical minerals list that has recently come out that's required for the economic and national security of our country. So just a little bit on the geology. Again, this is a precious metals rich porphyry and associated high-grade epithermal system in general. We can focus in on the resource area, which is shown here in the yellow rectangle over the top of the Allard adit, the little black line, and centered on the larger porphyry copper silver gold system that is outlined with a dashed line in darker red over the top of the porphyry minerals that are shown, or porphyry rocks that are shown in pink and blue. So there's lots of potential for expansion of this deposit, which is really about 1 kilometer long, 1 kilometer deep, and 400 meters wide. And we have not only potential to expand around the resource area, but to continue to work towards the discovery of new deposits at new porphyry centers, which are also shown here with the outline of the Copper Hill porphyry that outcrops in the southwest corner or southeast corner of this map, as well as this new, less understood area of porphyry mineralization on the project. In addition to the porphyry style mineralization, we have different deposit styles that go along with this deposit and include silver, lead, zinc, plus or minus copper gold deposits that are close and proximal to the resource area and the porphyry mineralization. But more distally, we have high-grade epithermal silver, gold, and tellurium deposits that were the focus of historic mining through the 1940s. We're going to look at a cross-sectional slice, vertical representation of what we see here, just to re-emphasize some of those geologic points and the different styles and target of mineralization that we're in search of here on the project. So in the middle, we have the Allard Tunnel, which again is sort of an anchor point for our Allard resource area, where we completed resampling, confirmatory drilling, and additional work to bring to bear this new resource for the La Plata project. As we step away from that core, we see additional silver, lead, zinc deposits and the potential for high-grade epithermal silver, gold, telluride deposits more distally to our core area. So now to the resource itself. We have completed the resource was completed by SGS Geological Services and looks at a couple of different cases, but the base case, using a 0.25% copper equivalent cutoff, returns 115.7 million tons at 0.35% copper, 889 million pounds of copper, 4 grams per ton of silver, almost 15 million ounces of silver at a copper equivalent grade of 0.39 and almost 1 billion pounds of copper equivalent. So this is simply targeted on the Allard copper porphyry system, which remains open to expansion in all directions, as it is primarily just drill defined. The analysis of our resource too really envisions what we would see as a large scale underground bulk mining deposit or methodology to extract this mineral at some future date. So we'll just take a look at another long section here that shows the Allard deposit area in the center with the drilling. And grade shells around that drilling, which really are the limitation of our resource. And you can see that there are numerous holes here that run from surface all the way down that are mineralized from top to bottom. And without having additional drill holes to test the extent of the mineralization, we see that there's great potential for expansion around this block of drilling that has been done previously. The drilling in total is about 56 holes and 15,000 meters of drilling. On the map here, we see additional porphyry targets or porphyry copper centers, one called Copper Hill here, which is where we have indicated the existence of some platinum and palladium values. And we'll look forward to expanding this resource with future drilling work, both laterally and down dip. And I think the potential to do so is strong. We're looking at a table of significant drill intercepts here, just to give you an idea of some of the grades that we've seen in not only our recent drilling from 2021, but the historic drilling is completed by Freeport and Rio Tinto. There are extremely big intervals, 854 meters of 0.26% copper, but also higher grade intervals of copper equivalent over hundreds of meters. We have some missing data here, which I think it represents an opportunity. A lot of the historic drilling did not include gold assaying and/or platinum and palladium assaying, and there was some limited assaying for silver as well. So as we move forward and do more drilling on the resource area, we have the potential to infill that information and expand our resource potential. So just in summary on the La Plata project, our inferred mineral resource estimate is 985 million pounds of copper equivalent, bringing 889 million pounds of copper and 15 million ounces of silver to our shareholders. The resource is open in all directions. Through the application of modern exploration techniques over the last few years, including geophysics, geochemistry, and drilling, we've identified 16 new untested potential porphyry centers on the project. We also recognize the numerous high-grade gold, silver, and tellurium epithermal vein targets, and we'll be incorporating those as well into our exploration plans as we move forward. We also see an opportunity on the project to advance our understanding of the potential to bring in the critical minerals as a target and future resource. We've got great location in the southwestern US, a very stable jurisdiction. We've got good infrastructure in the neighborhood. You can see this photograph is at what's known as the Allard resource in the center of our Allard adit, known as the Allard adit, in the center of our Allard resource area, and easy access with Jeep roads. We are planning, undergoing our planning now for our work program in 2022. So we'll look forward to talking more about that on La Plata as we move forward. And I just quickly want to touch on our Keno Silver project as well. It's in the north central part of the Yukon territories in Canada. On the map, you can see our metallic group neighbors, the Carmax project, the Kluane project for Group 10. We also have our Klondike Alluvial project shown on the map. Great infrastructure, great access, great jurisdiction to work in. And we're excited to continue working on Keno as we move forward. One of the more recent positive developments for the district, Keno Hill Silver District, which really had over 200 million ounces of historic production, now has over 100 million ounces of current reserves and resources. And one of the major announcements in the last year has been the restarting of production by our brownfields neighbor, Alexco Resources, who began production in Q4 of last year, or 2020. And with 8 years of mine life remaining, and an average grade of 800 grams per ton silver, this is something that we see quite regularly with our drilling on the eastern half of this district. District itself is 30 kilometers long, and we own essentially the eastern half of it, the second largest land package in the district. So just reiterating the grade of the district and the production that's coming from Alexco. This is a chart that shows the grades versus the global primary silver peers for each of these districts. And the Keno Hill copper equivalent grade over 1,000 grams per ton really represents the highest silver grade and highest total silver equivalent grade around the world amongst the peers that are producing as well. So, and the benefit there is too, we're in a very low political risk country. So just a quick look at what mineralization at Keno Silver Deposit looks like, or Keno Silver District looks like. This is a photograph from the Bel Keno deposit currently being mined by Alexco. And what you see here in the red boundaries is essentially the boundaries of the mineralization. All the shiny stuff is where the silver, lead, and zinc occur, as well as in the orange material. But these are structures with very high grades, oftentimes over moderate to large widths. In this picture, this is 6 meters across the mineralization. We are also evaluating, aside from the typical Keno style mineralization that you just saw with the high grade silver, lead, and zinc intervals, the opportunity for bulk mineable tonnages or bulk mineable deposits over broader widths and slightly lower grade. And that's been the focus of a lot of our work in the East Keno area over the last year or a couple of years. So this map shows the district. And as I mentioned, it's roughly 33 kilometers across. A lot of the targets of interest are shown on the map, as well as the major historic producing mines shown in orange. The current recent discoveries and recent or current resources are shown in yellow, particularly here at Birmingham, where Alexco's focused a lot of their work in the past years and made great discoveries. Again, over 100 million ounces of current resources. This is our land package in orange. And again, our focus on the Keno East area, where the geology is essentially continuous across the district, and we see good potential for both narrow vein, high grade, silver, lead, zinc veins, as well as broad disseminated bulk tonnage type targets based on recent work and the introduction of a new geologic model for mineralization on the deposit that's come from our extensive exploration in the last couple of years. These are our target areas that are early stage. We have a couple of target areas that we'll be really focusing on as we move forward and trying to advance these targets towards a resource stage. They include Formo and Caribou, as well as working more extensively on our new discoveries in the Fox area on East Keno, but lots of areas to apply and prioritize exploration on in the coming field season. With that, I'll turn it back over to Greg Johnson.
Great, Scott, excellent run through on everything. Maybe we'll just touch briefly here on the alluvial portfolio as well. This was an opportunity that came into the group, or into metallic minerals specifically, a couple of years ago. This is one of the largest areas unmined alluvial Klondike gold in the historic Klondike Gold District up near Dawson in the Yukon. It's really the eastern extension to that historic Klondike gold field, which has produced over 20 million ounces. And downstream from our holdings are a number of major open pit placer operations. And so we're really, the business model here is to acquire the ground and then invite experienced operators in, and we will take a royalty on production. And the opportunity being, it can be very rapid to go from exploration to production with a much lower capital costs and intensity for these alluvial projects. So we're expecting some new developments on our existing leases. We're working towards getting new permits put in place that could allow us to expand the number of operators, and we're expecting to see significant progress this year on the project. It's been a big and exciting couple of years. Really early part of the company's history with Metallic was about acquisitions, both at Keno and La Plata and the alluvials. 2020 was a major year because it really highlighted the discovery at Keno East of bulk tonnage in addition to the classic high-grade Keno style veins. And in 2021, really our biggest drill programs to date at Keno, our confirmatory drill program at La Plata, which really allowed us to move forward with the inaugural resource. So we're kicking off 2022, really strong. We've just released results from East Keno and Central Keno. We still have West Keno results to come. With the resource here, we're in full swing in terms of, as Scott said, planning for the programs, starting to build up the teams to really see, what we think is going to be a very exciting year ahead for metallic minerals, with still a few results to come from high grade West Keno areas, and then the kickoff of our overall drill programs and exploration campaigns. So looking at the share capital structure, about 137 million shares outstanding. The share price chart shows that we very much trade with the silver companies. So in the blue, we're in the green. The venture index is also shown as a good benchmark for explorer developers in the Canadian venture market. It's been a bumpy ride in silver, no question. Over the last couple of years, we saw a shorter term peak back in August 2020 for the silver and gold sector. We've been going through a long consolidation, but we think a base has been put in. And we think we're seeing the beginnings of the next upleg in commodities generally, but particularly we think silver is overdue. We're also very bullish on copper, and with the new resource out, it really gives us significant exposure to that metal as well. We had about $3 million on the balance sheet in working capital as of our last quarterly. We're in good financial shape coming into these programs. We have no debt. And we've got a great team. Major shareholders, management is one of the largest shareholders of the company. We're also backed by famous, well-respected investment groups such as Eric Sprott, US Global, and others that are really long-term and experienced in the mining sector. And so I think that really positions us well to be able to capitalize on the growth creation of the stage of development that we're at, which can often, be one of the largest times of value creation in this resource growth period. We've already tabled the resource at La Plata. A big focus of our programs at Keno are going to be taking those advanced stage targets to resources here at Keno as well, and to advance these two projects in parallel. So I think with that, I think there's maybe this just shows the kind of a highlight. So kind of step back and look big picture, why metallic minerals? I think if you look at the listed Canadian companies out there in the marketplace, there's something on the order of 2,000 listed exploration development stage companies in Canada. What percentage of those have the potential for a world-class asset? It's going to be a pretty small number. I think we can say with confidence we see the potential for 2 world-class assets in metallic minerals based on the exploration models, based on the current drilling and information we have to date. We believe these are things that are going to be of strong interest to the majors, and we're already seeing some of that interest come to the table. We've got a technical team that understands how to explore and advance and grow resources and create value through the de-risking process. and we're in a first world jurisdiction in our portfolio. So we're not taking on undue geopolitical risk. Between the experience of the leadership, the fact that we've been able to consolidate these really strategic assets at the bottom of the metal price cycle, we're really well positioned to be able to grow the resources, expand and add value as we move into what we believe is the early stages of a multi-year commodity bull market. It's going to be an exciting year for exploration, coming off of the biggest exploration programs for the company's history in 2021. So 2022 is really looking, quite promising. And a reminder that with the infrastructure we have in place, in the case of Keno, we've got an operating mine next door with power and infrastructure. In the case of Plata, we've got access to highways and power and nearby communities that we can base from. So all of this to say, we see excellent potential for metallic minerals to be a leader in the silver and copper spaces. We have leverage to underlying increases in metal prices, and we're at that phase of development where massive value can be created for shareholders through growing these resources and then de-risking them through the engineering stages. So I think with that, Chris, perhaps we can open it up to see if there are any questions. We're now about 40 minutes into the webinar, and we can answer any questions while we've got some remaining time.
Absolutely. I think we're getting too good at this. It's so comprehensive. Every time that there was a question, and 2 seconds later it was answered. But there are a few in here, and so we'll just circling back to La Plata, and these may or may not be answerable given, as you mentioned, the programs are being developed right now. But will any of the untested potential porphyry centers at La Plata be drill tested this year?
Yeah, I think our objective is going to be two-pronged, similar to Keno in this way, but at La Plata, we now have the resource area. It remains completely open to expansion. So one important focus will be drilling holes to step out away from the drill-defined mineralization in the resource and grow that resource. A second objective will clearly be to drill test the highest priority targets in the newly identified target areas. We see the potential for, as Scott mentioned, up to 16 targets. A few of those really stand out as high priorities. Those could be whole new porphyry centers. In other words, whole new areas as large and significant as La Plata that have never been drill tested. So it'll be a combined program focused both on resource growth as well as testing these new targets.
I guess I'll jump back to, because there's a couple more La Plata questions, but just the general question that comes up: what's the end game exit strategy, or just a development plan ultimately, as far as metallic goes? Yeah,
I think this is true broadly across the metallic group of companies. We really see the mining industry as really having kind of two important segments. You've got the exploration development stage where discoveries are made, which can be huge value creators, and then projects become resources, and then you grow those resources and de-risk them through what we call preliminary economic assessment, phase 1 engineering, pre-feasibility, which is phase 2, and then phase 3 is feasibility work, where you've advanced and de-risked the project enough, you understand how you're going to mine it, and the costs involved sufficient that you could finance it. And in the mining industry, typically it's the big companies with the experience and the balance sheets to come in and build these things. So our core focus, what we do well, is recognize significant scale systems, target those systems, and we've demonstrated throughout our careers the ability to be able to grow those large scale systems through exploration and then de-risking it through the engineering stages. And that's really going to remain the focus of metallic minerals. We're already seeing interest from producing companies in these assets because of their potential and recognize. But at these early days, we can really add a lot of value with relatively modest exploration budgets because it's not that expensive to drill inferred level resources and to undertake geophysics and other techniques that can really vastly grow your understanding of the system. As you move towards advanced development stage, that's where partners or even takeouts tend to most commonly occur. And we'll be looking to position ourselves, as we do this work, to be able to enter into those kind of relationships, down the road. So our focus is on growing the resource, de-risking the resource, revaluing the metal inventory valuation in the ground. And that's really the objective over the next, let's say, 3 to 5 years, will be to grow these resources and de-risk them, hopefully taking the dollar that an investor puts in and turning that into 5 or 10 or more dollars in revalued value as we move through this process. Chris, you're
rookie mistake. I'm on mute. Can you believe it? As you were responding, the follow-up was basically just that we're not expecting to build these out.
No, I really see, and I think Scott would concur, we see really 2 skill sets in the mining industry. You've got the guys who are really good at exploring, making discoveries, growing those discoveries and de-risking them through engineering. And then you have the guys that are really good at understanding how to build a mine, how to make it run well. And so it's really kind of exploration on the earlier stage and it's engineering on the other. And just as you wouldn't want Scott and I to be the guys to go out and build the next world-class mine in terms of the nuts and bolts of that mill and all the equipment, you wouldn't want to bring the engineers who do that well in and say, guys, go figure out where to drill the hole. So it's really different skill sets. And we've really demonstrated with the team that we've got here, the ability to recognize value, grow that value at the exploration and development stage. And oftentimes you create more value in that part of the stage than any other part of the cycle until you actually start producing cash flow. So it can be very, very attractive for investors to enter in either pre-resource or resource PEA, which is where we are now with metallic minerals.
And it's really our job to just go out and find as much mineralization as we can, much resources as we can, and we're really well positioned to do that on these 2 projects. So,
yeah, coming out of the gate with almost 1 billion pounds of copper equivalent, I think that was probably a surprise and lots to work with there. It's actually a good segue to on Twitter, I guess it was yesterday, handle at MMG Silver, by the way. A somewhat well-known and prominent mining guy said, I can't remember exactly what the quote was, but metallic is a copper stock now. So it's probably worth clarifying as part 1. With this new exceptional asset, what is the focus of metallic between the 2?
Yeah, I think it's a great point. And much like Nova Gold, right? We see value in world-class mineral assets, and whatever those metals are, if we can add value for shareholders, that's really the focus. So these are 2 fantastic deposits. Keno Silver being one of the world's highest grade producing districts in a first world jurisdiction, we think really remains underexplored. And now a second world-class district, which has a pedigree of high-grade silver and gold production, but now we've got a porphyry system in the center in the southwestern US. Just 2 great assets. So very similar to Nova Gold with Donlin and Galore, gold asset in Alaska, copper, gold, silver asset in BC. And we were able to create $2 billion worth of market value for those twin assets over a period of years. And the opportunity here, we see La Plata geologically very similar to Galore. Keno, very similar to, for instance, the Coeur d'Alene district in terms of its geologic style and pedigree. And Coeur d'Alene's produced 2 billion ounces of silver, and they're mining at 3 kilometers from surface now. At Keno, it's really quite early days. The deepest drill hole, I think, to date is 600 or 700 meters from surface, and most of the historic mining, within 300 meters. So early days, and La Plata, with the focus historically being on the high-grade silver and gold, it's early days in terms of understanding the ultimate scale and scope of these systems. But we're excited when we see the opportunity as shareholders ourselves to create a lot of value over the next couple of years on both these assets. So to get back to what's our focus, Our focus is on high quality precious metals. In the case of Keno, it's silver that comes along with a little bit of lead and zinc as byproducts and support. At La Plata, the first resource is copper and silver. But with this historic production of silver and gold, we see the opportunity to increase the precious metals component quite significantly at La Plata. And some of the other centers, in fact, look like they may be precious metal biased in terms of more of the value in precious metals than the base metals. We'll see as that unfolds. But we think it's great to have exposure to silver. It's great to have exposure to copper. And we think these are going to be value adding for shareholders.
So, Scott, that's Colorado and the area around there is kind of your old stomping grounds. So actually a two-part question. One is, as we talked about the focus of the company, between the porphyry, the copper porphyry type deposit or deposits and the higher grade vein structures around, is there one or the other that's a focus there? And how is the area to work in for an explorer?
Yeah, well, I appreciate the question, Chris. I did go to college at Fort Lewis College in Durango, Colorado, which is only 20 miles from basically from the deposit here and the project. And, there is a strong history of mining and mineral exploration across Colorado. We saw yesterday a company post some information on a new copper property in our region. We also know that Arcana is working diligently on the Revenue Virginia's project in Ouray, Colorado, just to the north of us. And so we're seeing a lot of support in the region for the work that we're doing. And I see it as a really, a good place to do work. And for me personally, brings me back home a little bit and stokes fond memories of my time in college and working in Durango. But in terms of your question relative to the balance of our exploration efforts at La Plata, whether we would be focusing on specifically copper, silver resources or high grade, narrow vein, gold, silver, tellurium deposits, I think we're going to continue to be balancing priorities and figuring out where and how we can provide the best value to our shareholders with our work and the results of our work. We clearly, based on the limited amount of drilling and the configuration of the Allard resource, have an opportunity to expand the resource significantly. And we'll have to really balance that with testing new targets and what the value of these new 16 other porphyry centers are in terms of allocation of drill meters, but also the narrow high grade stuff, obviously a small contained resource of very high grade silver and gold is something that we need to evaluate and make sure it's part of our exploration plans going forward. So
Scott, on the La Plata resource, gold is conspicuous in its absence. Comments?
Yeah, I mentioned in part, it wasn't a focus of a lot of the historic work by Rio Tinto and Freeport in the 50s and the 70s, when the bulk of the drilling and exploration work on the copper resource was done. And so it's an opportunity for us to continue to look at not only infill drilling or expansion drilling that would include assays for gold, but also platinum, palladium, and infill more silver, because silver was also not fully sampled in the historic work. So as we move forward, we'll probably see that as an opportunity that we'll continue to evaluate and could come into the resource at some future date.
Greg, I just want to circle back to this one. It's being eagerly asked about company funding for 2020, I almost said 2022 and forward, and management participation in that and or the market.
Yeah, so we're in pretty good shape right now. Certainly for kicking off the programs and the planning phases. We've got warrants that potentially could come in this summer and late summer and fall. And we're clearly in discussions with some of our big shareholders about where we're positioned and we're right now in that planning phase of understanding, what's the program, the optimal programs that we want to run, and how that fits with our current, working capital. But we've been able to successfully raise funds even in the bear market, and with us moving now to a resource stage, that puts us in a whole new category in terms of risk. And for some investors, that's going to really put us in a sweet spot where they can get in early, but they've got the confidence they're investing in something that's already moved to resource. So, I anticipate, we're going to be getting out. We work closely with Canaccord Genuity on the financings in 2020. And I anticipate we'll be getting out and speaking with investors and really making an effort to broaden awareness of what metallic minerals brings to the table today in light of the new resource and our ongoing work at Keno.
I think probably the markets in general are going to be a factor moving forward too. And it seems like the stars are aligned, but then it's still just kind of shaky time. So we'll have to navigate through the choppy waters here for the next little bit, it seems like.
There's no question. It's been a bumpy market for precious metals investors, but opportunity comes from those situations where prices have consolidated over the last 18 plus months in the silver and gold space. It's one of the few times I can recall where the producers, large cap producers, are trading near all-time highs, even with the recent, modest pullbacks in the big caps. And you've got exploration development stages, many of which are barely off their 52-week lows. So I think in terms of, look at that opportunity there, the spread between what a producer is being valued at in today's marketplace and what a high quality exploration development stage company is trading at, the opportunity there is very attractive to be picking up high quality names during this beaten up part of the cycle. And this part of the sector is so critical to the health and growth of those big producers. And I think M&A, we haven't seen a lot of it, but we've seen some pretty interesting transactions in the last year or so. And I suspect we're going to see a lot more M&A activity coming from the majors. And historically, that's been a catalyst or a trigger to revalue these exploration development stage names to a fairer valuation.
Yeah, it's not as though gold is back at 1,200. Gold is $1,900 and silver is was 24 yesterday. I think it's 23 and a half now. So
metals are great prices for mining companies, right? $24, $25 silver is a fantastic operating price for silver. As you say, 1,800 to 2,000 gold. These companies are making a lot of money. And look at the base metals. Tech today beat out of the park on earnings, and the market was way up. I think the market still, if you look at a ratio of large caps, such as the XAU to gold, we're trading at a fraction of past valuations relative to metal. And if you do a ratio of the gold and silver and mining sector versus large cap stocks, S&P 500, again, we're at a fraction of historic norms. So a revaluation to the mean type trade alone could see this entire sector double or triple from current values.
Oh, okay. So just circling back to the project, there's a few more questions here, but maybe we'll just wrap it up with a couple more. It's been almost an hour. So not really sure to what extent we can answer this, but Scott or Greg, when might we expect initial resource on Keno, at Keno?
You want to take it, Greg? Or I could say we're diligently working in that direction. I think we recognize that we need to, get some resources on the books. We have our advanced stage drill targets, and we'll be working in that direction. And hopefully sometime in the near future, we can be talking about resources at Keno.
Yeah, I would say that the work we've already done, we've got three kind of advanced target areas that have multiple pierce points. We're building a mineral inventory, which is the starting point for something. So if we look at Caribou, for instance, I think we had 75 pierce points on that structure. It's still open. We've got a big soil anomaly to the south. We stepped out 400 meters last year, so really grew that system a lot. The Formo, very high grade, completely wide open. And of course, the new discoveries at East Keno. those are pretty quickly getting to get scale, where you've got 3 areas with multiple pierce points over up to 100+ meters of width. So yeah, our program, our crew is really looking on how do we advance those advanced stage targets to an initial resource, get to critical mass, and then how do we continue to balance the prioritization of testing some of these earlier stage targets.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, the project is so big, it's always an issue of, looking at the blue sky potential and knowing, we have the possibility to make new discoveries of new zones. And we don't always know what those are going to look like, but, balancing this sort of maintenance of blue sky targets and prioritizing all of the different opportunities that we have against and with the resource development opportunities.
And the resource development opportunities on the west and central versus on Keno East with the bulk tonnage, which is quite a bit different, and some really interesting things happening out there, obviously. Where was I? Just jumping away from that. Oh, and I guess there, like you said, Greg, we do still have results coming, and those should be coming down the pike pretty soon. And I would expect we'll have some general updates and some Klondike alluvial updates and a fair bit. But just on the Klondike, there is a question about that, and you did touch on it. But do we have anything there planned? New operators, or just leave that for a coming update, maybe?
Yeah, I think we'll have an update here soon, but we are anticipating that the existing properties are significant advancement this year. And we are in the process right now of trying to bring in some new operators on other additional areas, and seeing a lot of interest there. So that's an exciting one, because potentially I could fast track us to production and cash flow.
Okay, well, maybe we'll leave it there, gentlemen. It's just about 11 o'clock, but I will circle back to jump onto the website. If you haven't yet, sign up to get updates from the company. You'll see the news when it comes out. Follow us on the various social media channels. We're quite active on there, and Lindsay does a great job handling that. So you'll get the latest first. And then, of course, events-wise, we have a lot of in-person events and virtual ones coming up as well. So starting with the OTC Markets, Metals and Mining on May 5th, that'll be a virtual event. The Canaccord event in person in Southern California, Greg and Scott will be at. And of course, the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference here in Vancouver. We have a booth, we'll be there. Come say hi, presentation, and some news in advance of that, I would expect. Gents, any parting thoughts?
No, we really appreciate everyone's time today. Feel free to contact us directly. Happy to always speak with the existing shareholders or interested shareholders. Happy to set up a call to go through anything in more detail. So thank you, everyone, for your time and for joining us today.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, take care, gents.
Thank you. See you, everybody.